Clue Finders.
Clue Finders.
Did you ever play
Yeah,
that?
I love Clue Finders.
I love that game.
Clue Finders
and
is
the freaking claptrap.
Yes.
Welcome back, or welcome to Confessions of a Homeschool Graduate. So you asked us in the comments section about what it was like independently learning and being homeschooled, and about some of our study habits and just the day-to-day. So today we are going to discuss just that for you. And so our first question is going to be, how much study did you do one-on-one with a parent?
So, like, at the beginning, all of it. Like,
Yeah.
But, like, I started in, like, second grade.
Right.
So, like, that was deeply necessary when we started. It was like, yes, 7-year-old, here's math, learn, was not gonna work.
Yeah.
So, at the beginning, Mom pretty much would, like, sit down with my brother and I together and just sort of, like, do it's time for math, time for English, time for history.
Right.
And we would just sort of do all of that together. Now that around the time we got around middle school, that stopped functioning as well. I was less, like, my ability to sit down and listen in such a casual setting was disintegrating.
Oof.
And my brother's stuff was starting to get more different than my stuff was.
Right.
And so at some point it was just beneficial to go, here's a thing.
Right.
If you have questions, come ask.
Yeah.
Which is how my mom liked to do things generally. It was never that she was just really like, I believe in you, and walk away. But, like,
there were some days, though.
Yeah.
That did happen.
There definitely some.
I'm sure it happened. It happened for me.
Yeah, it's like, that just generally happens when you look at someone every day and you go, do you need me for this?
Right.
And I'm like, no, you're fine. But, like, I might have mentioned this before, but my mother I don't know what nerve of hers I got on that day. But I wasn't a question-asking child.
Oh, no.
I was like, do I have a question? Boy, am I going to ask it.
Oh, boy.
And sure will I ask that over and over again until I get a question that satisfies me.
You mean an answer that satisfies you?
Yes.
Okay. I understood what you meant. It's okay.
Yes, that is what I meant. But, like, so I think we were in the car and I was just asking questions. My mom said, you know what? I don't know. Give me a 2-page paper on that tomorrow. And I said, what? And she said, I believe in you. You figure it out and you tell me. And at some point, there's something in your brain that goes, stop asking. You can figure this out yourself and skip a paper. You can have all the information you want and not have to write a paper. Because I think I'd been doing it so much, it started to become her regular answer.
Oh my gosh.
She was like, I don't know. Write me a 2-page paper about that. I was like,
I feel like she's mentioned to me before that she does that to the kids that she helps school now. Mm-hmm. But I had no idea that it was strictly because of you.
Yeah, no. At some point, I asked one too many questions in one day.
Okay, but would you believe me if I told you that was exactly how my mother had to treat my brother?
Really?
Yes. His favorite thing was, what would you do if? Like, what would you do if cats started falling out of the sky right now? Like, all the time.
Really?
And this was not, I mean, this started at a young age, but it went all the way through high school. Just because he's like, I can push her buttons. And let me tell you right now, this is slightly off topic. I promise we're going to get back to this. But my brother and I were masters at pushing my mother's buttons and manipulating her into getting out of schoolwork.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. It was so bad. Because, like, we learned at some point that if we got her distracted by a topic she was really interested in,
that's fair,
that we would spend 2 hours discussing, like, literature or history, and we would get out of doing our homework because then it would be time to go to church or go to theater.
And it's like, well, we've run out of time for this. That's fair. That's fair. No, I don't think it was ever a tactic for me. I very specifically, we have a story where I was born, and my aunt Cindy took me to a corner and said, question everyone, especially your mother. And she said it over and over again.
I'm sorry, what?
So it was like, question everyone, especially your mother. Because I was like, first of all, rude, ma'am. But also, I was like, deep in the depths of my brain, I'm like, question everything at all times. Why? So like, when I'd be like, I was thinking about something, I would just have deep existential thoughts as a child. I'd be like, why does? And then I would just throw it to the general audience. And people were like, I don't know. What are you even talking about? Like, truly non sequiturs.
Yes.
Not applying to anything else going on in this room. And I'd be like, and I would insist on getting an answer. So at some point, my mother was like, "You're gonna have to tell me, kid." I don't know.
Write a paper.
I don't know. I want a 2-page paper about that, actually. Essay. So at some point, I was like, it's best to simply look it up. I'm gonna go on a 2-hour binge anyways, and then I don't have to do a paper in the process.
There you go.
I'll just figure it out.
This was literally my brother. That is exactly what he did. And then when he figured out he didn't have to write a paper about it, he would talk everyone's ear off about the thing he did.
Yes, and then I did in fact lore drop on everyone later.
He loved to lore
But instead of me being like, "Why does?" I'd be like, "Did you know?"
Exactly.
And people were like, "This is different energy." It's not worse, but it is different.
See, but I feel like that's when the magic happens. Because once you, that like, switch flips, you go from being taught to independently learning.
Yeah.
Because then instead of asking, why does, you're saying, did you know? And that's amazing, because then at that point, you're not only educating yourself, you're educating those around you.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
Which is only a little off topic. How did I get here?
No, we're still there. You're good.
Okay.
What I was going to do next was to talk about my experiences with this question.
Okay.
So
I don't remember the question anymore, so I think that's why
Surprisingly, you stayed on topic.
Oh, wow. Why?
Because it's how much study did you do one-on-one with parents?
I had somewhere I was going later, but you can go.
Okay, cool. And then we can...
Yeah, we can come back.
We got this. We got this. With learning at home, same thing. I mean, I started with, when I was younger, I did stuff one-on-one a lot with a parent. But then as I got older, I mean, it was pretty much exactly, I would say, the same experience. Where eventually you learn, like, if I just look this stuff up, I can just become a master of knowledge on these subjects. Now, the problem is when you want to look things up that aren't necessarily related to your schoolwork.
Yeah.
But I was kind of a nerd and very scholarly and studious, so I just loved doing deep dives into my subjects. So for me, like, I would say towards middle to high school.
Yeah.
And then also having 4 older siblings, a lot of the time it helped that I didn't do those on my own. So like my brother and I could sit and have a conversation that we thought was just fun, and we had no idea that we were literally doing a study session. Because we were looking stuff up together and talking about it and watching documentaries for fun.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wait, we were learning. Like, that was actually us educating ourselves on something. And then we go start a conversation with my mom, and the next thing you know, it's like I said, what you were doing. You're educating other people while you're learning about it, which is just wild.
Yeah. Which, like, it's a very fun thing that happens in homeschooling. Yeah. Weird to everybody else. When you're like, did you know? And they're like, why do you know that? I was like, I had a question, so I spent the next 6 hours knowing everything about this now.
Right, exactly.
And they're just like, that's good, I think. I'm just gonna back away slow from this very talkative.
Oh, okay.
It's funny to me because if you look at fandom culture, it's literally
it's the same thing. But also, I'm deep in fandom culture, so like that, like this was a natural,
like,
evolution.
People think of it as odd because it's homeschooled, but honestly, I think it's much more normalized now.
Yeah, so, now that fandom culture is like a very known
and
thing.
Podcasts.
Yeah,
and like we are in the information age.
I feel like now that people have like access to learning like that.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh, this is just how I would have preferred to have done things.
Yeah.
Which is that's pretty like normal to like for like cultural wise be like, oh, so that's an option? Wonderful. I wish this was an option when I was a kid.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was like elementary school, all mom. Middle, high school, it slowly started petering into just me. I just had like deadlines.
Right.
She was like, you need to have this much done by this time. See you later, my guy. And I was like, cool. I'll tell you if I have any like pressing questions.
Well, I think that also has a lot to say about parenting styles as well. Like, that's a huge part of it, because if you don't, like, you've got to make sure that you help guide your children, but also you don't want to, like, be in their space so much or be unwilling to back off to where they can start to learn that this is an option. Like, I get to learn for myself. Like, saying, write me a 2-page paper is literally an invitation to start self-learning.
Yeah.
So, but you had said you had something else you wanted to say about how much you did one-on-one with your parent.
Yeah, I was kind of getting there. Like, I do know that my mom says this regularly. So, like, there was a point where she was like, well, they're sick of me. And then that's when we transferred to, like, from book learning to online learning.
Yeah.
And that was a good, like, stopgap between, like, her learning, teaching me, primarily to me teaching myself.
Oh, cool.
Because she found, like, programs. So it was like, okay, just get, like, this far in the program.
Oh.
And then come ask me if you have more in-depth questions
so
that
like
it's not answering.
Like a Khan Academy type thing?
Like a Khan Academy. I think
we did that.
What we had was Time for Learning. Did you have Time for Learning?
No, but I've heard of it.
It's wild, and there are puppets and animations.
What?
And you're just sort of, at some point, I got too mentally, when that happened, I was like, I'm too old for this. I need this puppet to stop speaking to me immediately.
That sounds terrifying.
It was pretty good for a while, and then at some point I was like, I cannot listen to this little puppet say another word to me.
What in the Betty Crocker VeggieTales?
I can't do it anymore. Which I think has kind of carried over. I have a hard time having people talk at me.
That's fair.
Which I think came from Time for Learning. I think at some point I hit a wall with it, and I was like, if someone says another word instead of showing me the thing, like because it would just talk and then it would show you later, it's like, show me the thing.
Oh, like having that hands-on.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. I was very hands-on.
I was like, I just knew that I couldn't, I wasn't taking anything when people talk at me.
Yeah.
Without having the exact step first. I want you to tell me the steps. Do not tell me any other information. Please be quiet.
Right.
I just want to do the thing and move on.
Right.
Which, once I got to that point with Time for Learning is when I started teaching myself, because I was like, he simply has to shut up, Mom. The puppet must stop
He simply
speaking.
has to shut up.
He must stop talking. And so I started teaching myself. She was like, okay, get this far in this thing. And I was like, done. I just need everyone to leave me alone.
See, we just watched a lot of documentaries.
Jackson and I did that. I like documentaries. I don't think
Right.
Jackson likes documentaries as much as I do. We watched a lot of educational television that had a lot of educational computer games.
Yes. Fun Brain.
Yes.
Fun Brain. Cool
Math Blasters.
Yes.
Math Blasters.
Oh my gosh.
And what was the one with the yellow Math Quest?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Math
didn't
Quest
play
is
like
the-
a ton of
Oh,
Map Quest.
I played a lot of Math
Now,
Quest.
my sisters did. Granted, you're the same age as my older sisters.
Yeah.
So, like, by the time I was in that era,
The computers had changed a little
they
bit.
had changed a lot. And
Yeah.
so I had stuff that looked more like Khan Academy.
That's fair.
And, like, at that point, Quizlet had games.
Remaster Map Quest. It's the best teaching tool that exists.
I believe it. What if it is remastered? Like,
Somebody-
I haven't even looked it up. We should
Somebody
look it up
do
and
that.
find
Put
out.
money behind whatever that
Seriously.
project is. MapQuest is so good, I'd play it tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, and freaking Reader Rabbit.
Reader Rabbit.
Oh, I loved that. All the computer games. And then what was the other, Clue Finders.
Clue Finders!
Did you ever play
Yeah, I
that?
love Clue
I
Finders.
love that game.
Clue Finders
It's
is
a freaking claptrap.
everything. Yes,
Oh
Clue
my
Finders
gosh.
is truly everything. to me.
Yes, and all of the, we had I think 7 of them,
Mhm.
because I don't know how many different ones there were, but like we had the one with the jungle,
Oh, yeah.
and the grapes, and then you had to find like all the different.
I had the math, I had the
Please,
writing, I had the
please.
typing, I had the history.
If you played this game, please tell us about it in the comments.
Remaster the games, I'll play them tomorrow.
Legitimately.
I swear to God.
Like, can we please bring this back?
I will put adult money on that. I swear.
Straight facts.
It was so good.
I love those games. I think my sister, she has like an old PC for her littles, for my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And I think they still have these games.
Good
Like,
for them.
They're so
Good
good.
for them. They're
so
fantastic.
good. So yeah, that was a huge part of independent learning.
Yeah.
And like
Edutainment is a huge part of
it is.
Is a huge part of individual learning.
It is.
Because we had a rule. If you finish your schoolwork for the day before 4 p.m. Well, I think there's like middle school when we still had like a certain amount we had to do for a day.
Right.
Then you can watch TV, but it has to be educational.
Right.
The amount of Animal Planet I have watched in the heyday of Animal Planet.
Oh right, back when they had the
Even before Meerkat Manor, the heyday of Animal Planet.
I can literally hear the animal time on the dogs.
Ooh. Ooh, I've seen so much Animal Planet. I think I was talking to one of the kids, and she was like, you ruined the ocean for me? And I said, I'm sorry, what did I do? And she's like,
because of the deep sea creatures?
yeah, she started talking, and I was like, I hear my words in your voice. I know I did this. I know this is my fault. She said the second you step in the ocean, you hit the bottom of the food chain. I was like, ooh, that was me.
When it comes back to you, did you know
I was like, that was me.
that in the ocean it's actually terrifying?
I was like, oh, I did all of this. She was talking. I was like, those are words I have said verbatim. I know I ruined the ocean for you. I'm so sorry. The ocean is a terrible place. I didn't lose nothing in there. And if I did, where am I going to find it? In a riptide with a shark? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
What am I doing in the ocean? I didn't lose nothing.
Ocean is terrifying.
And I don't like sand. What am I doing at a beach?
I don't like sand.
I'm just a bad Caribbean. It's fine. I don't like it. I didn't lose nothing in the ocean.
What are the subjects that you felt were the easiest for self-learning, and then maybe the ones that you wish we could have approached differently?
When I say approach differently, I don't know what I would have recommended she done. Because,
That's fair.
it was math, it's
Same.
science, and at a certain point, what do you do but get somebody who knows and go, here you go, my guy?
I mean, we did that.
Yeah, so, we did, co-ops, obviously. And I was, late middle school, and we were doing math. And I promise you right now, if I didn't love this teacher, I truly would have thrown the entire book away. But I was like, I don't understand what's happening. Can you explain to me what this is for?
Okay, I need you to know that we literally bring this up in every
Do
single
I?
video.
Because
It's in every video,
I don't
Jordan.
like math. I don't.
We have this conversation every time.
If math isn't purely logical, why does it exist? That's the point of math. The second you can't tell me why it's happening, I'm done. Math is applied. What's theoretical math?
It's what physicists do.
Okay, they're applying it to their
Theoretical
lives.
math is what Sheldon does. I don't know.
Yes, I was like, oh, a person who's doing science that I don't even have the basic grasp on is applying that. Good for him. Why am I learning it? What does that have to do with me? Nothing. Why do I need to know thermodynamics?
I don't know. It's helpful sometimes.
Leave me out of this.
I don't know. That's the problem with being artistic, though.
Yeah, there's things like that are just sort of hit a wall, and I was like, I wish we could have figured out what to do about that.
Yeah.
But what would she have done? I don't know.
Math was a big one for us. My favorite subjects for independent learning were definitely the more artsy fartsy subjects, like literature and history and reading comprehension.
1,000%.
Are you kidding me? Okay. So, if you've ever read the Bob Jones literature curriculums,
oh no.
no, you need to know they were heavily adapted. We did not.
Oh, okay.
So the book was like a guide.
Oh, okay.
I want you to understand.
I was like, that's not great.
It was the basis
Okay,
of what we used.
that makes more sense.
Because it's just, we got all of our curriculum secondhand
Mm.
because it was more affordable that way.
Curriculum is so expensive.
And I'm going to be honest, of all the curriculum, even with the heavy bias, the
Mhm.
Bob Jones stuff was written the best. It had the best usability.
Really?
Well, because the way that my mom taught fit more of a classroom setting.
Yeah.
Because there were so many of us.
That's fair. That's
So,
fair.
5 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got younger kids who are incredibly advanced.
Mm-hmm.
We were just all learning high school literature at the same time.
That's
So, for me, by the time I hit 9th grade, 8th grade, somewhere in there, I was obsessed with literature. And I would
Mhm.
literally read the excerpts in the book. Because, they give you little samples of the literature.
Yeah.
It's all excerpts.
Yeah.
Some of it's poetry collections, and those aren't excerpts. That's the full poem. But I had these names memorized, names, dates, all these different people for poets. I loved poetry. I was super obsessed. And some of them would go into the life of the author. Philip Sidney was one that we learned a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
And I would read these. They had these discussion questions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a lesson, you read the excerpt, and then at the end you would discuss it as a group. And my homework for literature was to read those questions and then write down answers on a piece of notebook paper.
Okay.
And turn it in. So, my guy, I would read these questions, then go get material outside of the source that I was reading. Go find other stuff about the life of the poet. Read into that even more. And then, give these massive short essay answers to all 5 of the discussion questions. Some of them were just, basic reading comprehension by, what did the poet mean when they gave this allusion to this certain thing in this poem? And I'd answer that. But then, one of them, I specifically remember this, And I'm like, it was one of the poets. I think it was Philip Sidney, or it could have been John Donne. I'm not sure which one. I don't quite remember. But for one of them, it was talking about when his son died.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally, like, had myself in tears, like, writing a whole thing about, like, why the prose was so beautiful. And so, like, yeah, that one was... My mom literally at one point banned me and my brother from literature and history because we were neglecting our other subjects.
That's so fair.
I would spend 4 hours just doing my history and literature homework, making it perfect, and then, like, completely neglect to do math.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad, which I think is hilarious, because when you are literally taking away subjects as, like, a form of grounding, you know you're doing something right. Because your child loves learning that much.
It's like, you have to do something else.
Yeah.
You have to.
Like, you've got to do
That's
your math.
very fair. I think we approached this, like, the spirit was the same, but the approach was very different.
Very different.
By the time we got to high school, I'm pretty sure we kicked most curriculums. I don't think
fair.
we were using anything.
That's fair.
At the beginning of every school year, my mom would give us a syllabus and be like, this is what you have to have done by these milestones.
See, yeah, my mom needed the guide.
Mm-hmm.
She's not quite
Yeah.
organized enough
I
on
don't
paper
know
to do that.
I'm not 1,000% sure where mom got that. I think she took some from AP and some from, like, other things.
From what I've heard her go off and talk about in the videos we've made,
Yeah.
she's just, like, really, she just made it. And I'm
That
like...
sounds true. She would just hand us, like, a 5-page stack at the beginning of the school year and said, meet the deadlines.
That's wild to me, I'm sorry.
No, that's fair. But, like, I'm not the person who can, like, space a lot of stuff out. I can't, like, my ADHD does not allow me to divert, like, to do something else.
Right.
I'm doing this or I'm doing nothing.
Right.
So I would take a subject and I would, like, at the beginning I would start and I would do a little each day and then I would get sick of it. And I would be like, if I gave you all of my math in 3 weeks for the year, will you leave me alone? And she said, dope. And I did. And I simply handed it to her and walked off.
What?
I have intense hyperfocus ADHD.
That's actually fair.
I was like, I will not do this for the rest of the year.
This concept is just so wild to me.
I was like, I will not do this for the rest of the year. She was like, we do, like, a little bit of math all year to, like, maintain math.
Right.
Because mom believes in, like, you have to do math to maintain math, and she's
Right.
right. But I would just do all of one subject in, like, 2 months. And then be like, no one talk to me. And I do whatever I want.
Yeah, no, we did not do that at all. We didn't.
Yeah, I was...
But we're creatures of routine.
Yeah, I am not. I cannot do it. Like, routine does not stick. If I stop doing something for a day, that routine never existed at all. That's just not how my brain works.
That's fair. No, that's completely fair. It's just a wild concept to me.
That's fair.
Okay, so this is really funny. I can't spell.
That's fair.
So there was this one time that, like, my mom had tried so many different planners to try and get us on some kind of, like, habit building routine.
Yeah.
And this actually is a really great time to talk about, like, studying with distractions.
Yeah.
Because our lives were so chaotic.
There was just stuff to do.
Like, we
all the
had
time.
theater, we had extracurriculars, we had church, we had friends, like, go help this person out. Like, we had a community, you know, and sometimes that meant making sacrifices to go help someone. Like, this was a constant thing. And having to, you know, having, like, this home for wayward people going on while you're actively trying to learn and do school, especially since my mom did more of, like, a classroom environment.
Yeah.
So, like, we're in a classroom environment, but there's people constantly walking through our classroom, and my dad worked from home, and so sometimes he would not realize that we were in the middle of, like, a class session, and he'd just, like, barge in and interrupt everything because he got excited about something.
That's fun.
Which was hilarious.
My dad used to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
He'd just walk in and be like, guess what? And we'd be like, I guess we're doing something different now.
Yeah.
Sure. What's
and then
up,
he'd
my man?
say, I did this deep dive in this podcast. We should listen to it at lunch. And my mom would be like, that's great, honey. I'm teaching history. Now you've distracted all of the children. Thank you. To which his nickname was the Distractinator.
That's hilarious.
That's literally what we call my dad.
Sometimes
I'm going
I would
so
walk-
off topic.
Oh no! I was about to add to it. I was like, sometimes I would just leave whatever we were doing, just go to my dad's office and be like, Mom's saying something that doesn't make sense. You explain it instead.
Literally, yes.
Like, we did that, especially with math. My dad taught me backwards. He taught me division first.
Oh.
And that, because I couldn't get multiplication. It was annoying the hell out of me. And he was like, let's do division. And I understood division easier. And he said, do it backwards. And I was like, oh, gotcha.
My dad and I bumped heads so much on math.
Oh no, Dad was the only one who would teach me math at the beginning.
Well, our brains work in a similar way, and we're both very, very stubborn.
Yeah.
So, like, he would try to sit down and teach me, and then, like, if I wouldn't get it immediately, like, he'd kind of get frustrated, and then I'd get frustrated, and then we would just, like,
It's like, no. No.
and then, like, throw teen angst into the midst,
That's
and it was
fair.
just not a fun time.
That's
Like,
fair.
it was not. But once I got to high school, like, we got past that. But, like, that was a wild time.
Yeah. But as far as distractions, my life is distractions.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, like, again, deeply ADHD and undiagnosed for most of it.
Yeah.
So, like, procrastination was a part of the method. It's built in to how I learn. Like, when I know I have to do something and the deadline's coming, I schedule 2 hours of procrastination. Like, I'm just like, you can procrastinate for these 2 hours. You just have to get into the position to do the rest of the work. So you don't have to reset to go into it.
Fascinating.
So I'll set up my entire area to do work and then just do something else. And then I'm like, and you're out of time, focus. The procrastination is a part of the madness.
Okay, so this is making me wonder things because anytime my husband sits down to do a task that resembles studying or something that requires focus, he'll sit there and, like, watch shorts for like 20 minutes before he actually gets the work started, and it literally drives me insane.
Like, it's a part of his process.
I cannot for the life of me wrap my head around it, and I didn't know other people did this.
Yeah, no, it's a part of the process.
Honey, I'm sorry.
He's like, this is part of me starting anything. My ADHD makes it hard for me to begin things. So I just get myself into the mode of doing anything at all.
Yeah.
Do something else and then transfer it into the thing.
See, I'm so, like, if I don't do something right when I think about it, it's not gonna happen. So, like,
I just have trouble starting anything at all ever.
Starting things is what I am especially good at. It's finishing them that's a problem.
I can finish something. I can't start anything.
Like, I'm the girl who's like, just do it. Like, I'm literally the person who's like, just do it. Literally just sit down and do it.
Yeah, no. If I ever just do something, 8 hours later, I've painted a room.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, just gotta do something. And I'll stand up and I'm like, what happened? Where am I? When was the last time I peed? Why am I hungry?
Meanwhile, you're just like standing around like the tower in Tangled. The wall's just beautiful.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. I like got up one night and I was like, I've done nothing all day. And I walked in the bathroom and then I wallpapered my bathroom. And I was like, well, that's done. Can I paint? No, it's too late. And this wall is attached to my neighbor's wall. So I'll do that tomorrow.
This is amazing. I didn't know about this experience being ADHD. I had no idea.
Like, at least for my type of ADHD, I was like, no, the procrastination is the only thing that's going to get me close enough to the thing to start the thing at all.
Right.
So there's, like, I have to incorporate the distractions into the madness.
Right.
And, like, when we were schooling, like, people would be coming in and out sometimes. Jackson, a friend who would just show up some days, and I was like,
oh, yeah.
Who are you? I mean, I know you, but also did you bring cookies as the customary bride for being in my house?
This.
Get out.
Why were there always people like that?
I was like,
every time.
He's like, don't worry, I brought 2 packs of chocolate chip. And I was like, bake them and bring 5 to my room later. And he was like, dope. And that's
how it goes.
Yeah. And like sometimes people would be coming in and out. Sometimes like we'd have to go somewhere that I wasn't expecting. I had class on specific days.
Yeah.
And I had homework I had to do for those classes. And it just sort of like, it was just part of it. And like, again, I hyper-focus. So I'm like, okay, this is what my week looks like. I don't want to deal with any history while this is happening. So I'm going to do 2 days of history before that even happens. Get 3 weeks of it out of the way.
That's a pretty cool way to do it. I would never think of that. So for me, my mom did lectures a lot. Like she would literally teach.
Yeah.
It was very much like a classroom setting, and we were all kind of involved in it, which I thrived in because I'm very group oriented. I'm a people person. So, I mean, we've talked about how you're more introverted, I'm more extroverted. So I thrived in that. And so not being, I can hyper focus, but it's not a thing that I just naturally do.
Yeah,
like,
no, I just lose time.
Like, I can do that. And I have done that, but it's not, like, usually I have a routine that has to get me in the zone so that I can make the focus happen. And so what was difficult for me was the distractions. When people would interrupt, when someone would come in, my mom would be mid-teaching. And then, like, also, if she was in the middle of teaching us and someone walked in that needed her attention, then we were just kind of sitting there until she was done.
That's fair. I think,
I
think the way that I worked since we were, Jackson and I truly was like, well, I'll see you on a certain day, Mom, when we present.
Yeah.
I think at that point I was like, I knew what I had for the week. If someone walked in, they walked in. but like
Yeah.
that didn't really like derail me.
Oh, no,
too
it would
much.
derail our entire day. It would derail my mom, my siblings, me. Like, we would all go all over the place.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But like generally, I knew what my week looked like, and I'd be like, well, and if you've ever seen The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt,
No.
it's a TV show that was on Prime or something at the end of like when I was in college.
Oh, gotcha.
And there's a character named Titus. And he, like, I'll never forget this. He was just sort of like, but I've already done something today. And I was like, that is the most vibe thing I have heard all week. Exactly. I have already done something today, please. So, like, in my brain, I was like, I'm not doing math. And the same day, I'm doing X, Y, or Z.
Fascinating.
I'm like, no, I've already done something today.
See, whereas I'm like, it's a balanced diet. Like, I wanted all 5 subjects, like a little bit of each every day.
No, I can't.
So-
I can't diverge like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, no, I've already done something today.
See, now I say that.
Mhm.
I say that, but what actually would happen a lot of the time is I would just neglect a certain subject
Yeah, right.
until the end of the week.
Mhm.
But a lot of that really did have to do with just the kind of chaotic environment, which didn't start till much later for me because I was the youngest and my sister had kids.
That's fair.
And then the kids would come over, and then I'd want to play with my nieces and nephews, so I kind of allowed myself to get distracted. But in those times, anyone who's like wondering like what tips you can do, for me, I would put on headphones.
Yeah.
I would listen to music. Lo-fi hip-hop is your best friend.
Ooh.
I love
My
music and
family
lo-fi.
couldn't stand that pair of headphones my uncle gave me for Christmas. They were noise canceling.
Yeah.
Man, ain't nobody could talk to me ever. Specifically on like how to divert distractions when there's like like you're just sort of like trying to get through a day.
Right.
This is a very specific to me thing. I like to put on something that has words but won't distract me too much.
That's fair.
So I'll put on like a audiobook I've heard before.
Yeah.
I'd put on a very repetitive song and put that on loop. And when I do that, my brain starts like I start deleting senses, if that makes sense.
It does.
I burn incense, I do something auditorially, and I have something to do with my hand so I can focus on whatever's in front of me.
Those are grounding techniques.
Yeah. And
Those are literally grounding techniques.
and I could lose about 8 hours like that.
I believe it.
And like that's what I would do if I had to sit down to really write a paper in college and I was like, I'm running out of time, I have out of time to procrastinate.
Yeah.
I get into the position, have everything I need around me, incense burning, drink next to me, water next to that, a fidget toy in my hands, a podcast going in the background, lights down in front of computer, procrastinate for 30 minutes, and then transition into it. You wouldn't see me again for 4 hours. Come back out, 5-page paper done.
There you go. That's the way to do it. See, I do that, like, now.
And I was like, that's what I need.
Not necessarily the podcast. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do anything with words.
That's what I need if I need to buckle down.
Right.
Like, if I'm out of time, there's no more wishy-washy can go on. I'm
Right.
like, this has to get done. And I'm like, okay, time to be real strict.
See,
I don't exist for the next 6 hours. I'm sorry.
there you go. My habits were more like that, just to get me in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I got in the zone, I could do 2 hours of work easily.
Yeah.
And then I would also schedule breaks. Like, and I still do this now. Like, I would incorporate, okay, we're going to get up, we're going to stretch for 15 minutes, go to the bathroom, come back.
That's why I try to do as a more healthy
Yeah.
studying thing. Because, like, sitting still for 6 hours and just, like, constantly taking weird energy off of a bright screen. Like, learning things that some of them nobody needed to know. I just went down a rabbit hole as a side route and had to come back. And it was like, that's not great.
Yeah.
So what I try to do when nothing's pressing is, like, I'll sit down to do something, do this slight procrastination, not do all of the senses deleting things. I'll do, like, maybe 1 or 2.
Right.
And then I'll be like, okay, but I'll put on a timer. And then I'm racing that. How much can I get done
well.
before that goes off? And I'll be like, 45 minutes.
Sorry, you just jogged my memory on something.
That's right.
I just remembered that's how I used to do math.
Yeah, like 45 minutes until I have something else I have to do. Like, I don't give it any time after that. I'm like, can I be finished before this is over? Because once again, I already did something today.
It's
So
a race.
I don't want to come back to anything.
Right.
So I'm like, I do that to clean my room. I do that to do chores.
Okay, see, now that is something I still do to this day.
Mhm.
Yeah, I set a timer.
And I'm just like, this has to get done, and I'm not coming back to
And
it.
it is a race. You make a little
Mhm.
game out of it.
Yeah.
And you're like, how fast can I get this done?
which happens just sort of naturally to me. Like, I'll have something I need to do, and it's very hard for me to do something when I have something looming in the distance.
Right.
Like, if I have an appointment in the evening, I might not eat until 6 p.m. because I'm like, something's happening later.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, so if I don't, I have to turn that into a, how much can I get done before something else has to happen?
Yes.
Then I can make the rest of that day mean anything at all.
Yes. See, and I just remembered how I actually started this, because there was a funny story that I was going to tell, speaking of planners and timing. So my mom, she's very like, I've got to put my thoughts on the page. And I'm like that too. Like, it's just got to be on the page. So what we would do, she searched for a planner, and I can't spell. See, this is where we were going.
Oh, that's where we were going. I forgot about that.
There we go. And we couldn't find one that worked. So finally, she just got a notebook, and she was like, I'm just going to make it myself. And I decided that as a surprise, I was going to decorate it all pretty for her. And I drew all kinds of designs on it, and I was so proud of it. And my brand new cursive handwriting that I just finally figured out how to make look pretty, I wrote, Teacher's Planar.
You did your best.
So for the rest of school, like, I'm serious, she had this notebook for years. It was called The Planar.
The Planar.
And what she would do is she would write down, we had 5 subjects, and she would write down in a descending order of what we needed to do for the day. And she put like the date at the top of the page, and she put our assignments on it for each day. And some of those would just carry over, but it was like a really nice thing because then I had a list that I could cross off. And I am a list girl. So like,
I am a list
you've got
person.
subjects that you need to get done, there it goes.
Away.
Make a list.
Where did it even go?
It's right there.
Oh no. I can reach that. Got it. Ow, I pulled something.
No, please don't hurt yourself. Thank you. I'm dead. So that's how we would do it. I'm losing my mind.
No, that was hilarious.
But yeah, we had a list, and that's how she would write stuff down. And a lot of times, like, she'd make it to where she could tear it out and hand it to us.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I loved that. It was really good. And we had like bulletin boards and like whiteboards and chalkboards and all the things.
I think Mom was mostly syllabus. She would email it to us and she would hand it to us
That is
on
hilarious.
paper and be like,
Hold on, she would email you.
yeah.
I love that.
And she would, like, they'd have highlighted dates, and on those days my brother and I would come and be like, here's the work we have, and we'd present it to her.
We were never that organized.
And then she would go through it, and she would grade everything and be like, you have to go back on this thing and do this thing and do this thing. That's what we do for that week.
That's amazing.
And then we'd come back and we'd hand it to her again and be like, okay, that's good enough. And then we'd move on with the rest of the school year.
I think it's really funny listening to you talk about ADHD experiences because I'm not. I don't believe that I am. But our learning environment was.
Yes.
Like, the way we learned was.
Yes, it was.
You're like, there was all this organization and these things that were so laid out and planned. And I'm like, literally, the way you've been describing how your brain works is what our routine was. Like...
No, I probably would have been okay. I would have had a hard time, like, sitting through day-to-day things, but I would have been like, what's happening? That's fine.
Like, just as a concept, part of me is like, if we could just go back in time and just swap moms for a day,
It's like,
what
what
would
are we
happen
learning?
to our brains?
I don't know.
Like, what would that be like? Because I'd be like, yes, organization, list, emails. And you'd be like, yes, chaotic environment.
No, my mom would have emailed you what you were learning that day. I was like, here's some resources. Tell me if you need something.
I'm dead.
If you make lunch, please get me some.
Oh, we always had lunch around 1 p.m.
Oh, no.
Like, very specifically.
Very early on, I think my mom doesn't like to cook very much at all.
Oh, my mom would, like, make, like, a full course
Oh, no,
meal for
Mom
lunch every day.
hates cooking. Mom
so funny.
despises cooking. And she taught us to cook very young. I think mostly so we'd stop asking her to make us lunch in the middle of the day.
Oh, yeah, straight facts.
But, she grew up in a very large household where you all learn to cook a thing.
Yes.
And on your day, you cook the thing.
Sounds about right.
So she was like, okay, this is, like, here are the meals that I know how to make, and here's how you make them.
There you go.
Figure it out. And this is the basis of cooking. Don't hurt yourself.
Basically.
And then at some point, you would, like, walk down the stairs to make yourself lunch. He's like, bring me some. And I'm like, okay.
Yes. I still remember being so proud of myself at 8 years old when I made tacos for my whole family for dinner.
Ooh.
I was like,
Oh,
guys,
I
made tacos.
Man, I was making stuff that I had no business making. I was like, I made entire Chinese food meal was like sesame chicken with dumplings, and they were only kind of good. They weren't great.
Only kind of good.
They weren't great, but they were deeply edible.
But like you did it. They were deeply. That sounds bad.
I know. They were very edible, and they didn't taste bad. Because sometimes you just be like, we have to put the chicken in the oven for another 10.
Anything that I am just like okay with eating now, where I'm like, this meal is okay. I made it. I'm just gonna refer to it as deeply edible.
If this is deeply edible.
Oh my gosh, we were going somewhere.
We were. I had a thing that I was gonna add.
No,
Darn.
it's okay. So did I.
What was I gonna say?
Well, we were talking about the planar.
The planar.
Yes, the planar.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
And then lists, and then swapping moms for
Oh,
a day.
yeah. Oh, I think something my mother did very well. Well, because I didn't originally like reading at all. I was like, I couldn't stand
You
it.
didn't like reading?
Yes.
Cool. I think you were trying to say learning and reading at the same time because you said la reading.
Oh, that's fair.
And I was like, what is la reading?
I don't know what came out, but that's fine.
Okay. I promise I'm not trying to make fun
No,
of you.
I just, that's fine.
genuinely wanted to clarify what
No, that's fine. That happens to me a lot. I'll be like, what did I say, actually? Like, I'll finish a sentence and be like, what came out my mouth?
So anyway, you didn't enjoy reading.
No, I hated reading. I
Okay.
couldn't stand it. And that, like, this was, like, early middle school, and she was like, this is not gonna function if you hate reading. And so she started doing incentives. She'd be like, if she would write in the back of a book a date, and if I finished that book by that date, I would get a prize.
I feel like I remember you saying this.
I might have said it at some point, but, like, that's how she got me into reading. And now I read
That's
with
just brilliant.
90% of my time. And there came to a point where I was stealing her library card to take out more books at a time. I still have both of our library cards memorized.
Right? I have mine memorized. I got my library card at 5 years old, and I memorized the number because I kept losing it.
Yeah, we don't know where either of those cards are.
I got mad. Like, if I had to really dig deep, I could probably recite it, but I don't feel like wasting the mental energy on that right now.
I know I can do mine right now. It'd have to take mental energy to get my mom's.
That's fair.
But, like, no, I would bring big tote bags, fill them with books.
Yes!
And at this point, they had finally got the technology to where you could just sort of put it all on top.
Yes!
And not take the books out individually. Man, I was just scanning books.
Yes.
I'd take 20 books out at a time and return them all on time.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So that's how I got into reading.
Yeah.
And man, my
Oh.
nails looked great.
Bro, the days when we would, like, take school to the library, oh my gosh, those were my favorite. Like, when we
Yeah.
got to go out of the house to do learning,
Yeah.
I loved those. Those were probably the more organized school
That's
days.
fair.
Because, like, sometimes the environment would get too chaotic, and so we'd just be like, let's just shake it up.
Sometimes you just need to be somewhere else. And that's
Yes.
still true today. I'm just
Yes.
like, some days I just go to the library and it's like, I don't want to be at home anymore.
Well, and like my mom, now that I think about it, I didn't think about it back then because I was like, ooh, look, a fun day to get out of the house. But like thinking about it, carting all of us 5 kids to the library was one of the best things she could have done for her sanity.
True.
Because when you're in the library, you have to be quiet.
True. I was really just thinking a place where you mandatorily have to be silent.
And she could kind
And
of...
someone else will enforce it.
And for once, she could actually like
Do
read a little bit
something else.
recreationally.
Yep.
And so she'd sit there and read while we were reading, and that was great. And then they had the giant chessboards, and like we'd learn how to play chess at the library.
My dad had I don't remember why for our Christmas we got my dad a glass chest. That stayed intact for a long time.
That's amazing.
And
We
I
had one of those.
And I was like, I don't know if my dad likes chess particular,
This is so random.
but we all learned to play chess on that. He taught us to play chess. I don't know if my father likes chess. I just at some point we had a glass chessboard as like a fixture in the living room,
Right.
and we would just sit down and play.
But I love that. See, and that's another thing. I'm gonna get deep for a second because that's that right there. You know, everything we've been discussing, it starts with the family. It starts with family time and your family structure and routine, and then also just cultivating a love for learning. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, like learning how to play chess, sitting in the library, and just discovering that you love to read books because it's just a cool place to hang out. Like all of these things, incentives for reading books. We also had incentives for reading books. Like if we finished a book on time, we would get prizes for that.
Yeah, no, my nails looked great.
I believe it.
I had a manicure once a month.
There you go. Like I think for us, it was usually like we got our favorite meal for dinner.
That's
or
fair.
like we got a snack that we really
I don't
wanted.
know what Jackson got. I
Yeah.
think you got like coding books and stuff.
It just
like that.
depended.
Yeah.
Like we just another thing we did all the time. Oh my gosh. Like you're bringing back so many memories for me right now. Something that I absolutely loved was we would go to the bookstore a lot. Like after dinner,
I love the bookstore.
like in the this was just a whole aesthetic. Like just follow me down memory lane for a second. Like It is in the middle of winter. The sun sets at like 6 o'clock. We eat dinner. It's dark outside. We have nothing better to do. My dad isn't working anymore. So, like, this is the time when he can join us for family time.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? We all jump in the car as a family, and we ride over to the bookstore. And we're just there for, like, an hour. Just walking through the bookstore, looking at all the different topics and reading stuff and picking stuff up and having conversations about it. Some of the best conversations with my dad happened on those nights.
That's fair.
Because we would be picking up, like, all the different interesting titles and talking about, like, this weird self-help book and, like, what is that about? That's weird. And then we'd talk about, like, the secrets of the universe and then theology and then this story. And it was just, honestly, like, back when they had Borders, I don't know if anybody in the whole world even remembers. And the galaxy on the floor
Borders.
in the kids section. If you remember Borders, please let us know, because we would love to talk about that as well. Memories from the past. Borders. We're going through all the nostalgia today. And then when Borders closed, which was so tragic, we would also go to, like, Barnes and Noble, and sometimes my dad would, like, get me a little coffee at Starbucks.
We had the Books A Million right by our house, and we lived near a mall, and there's a Books A Million.
Oh yeah, I know which one.
Yeah.
Is it the same one?
The last Books A Million?
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
This is the last Books A Million
go
in
there
Georgia
too.
at this
Yep.
point. Man, we were just...
And also the Wetzles pretzels. Yes. There's only 3 of them in the entire country now.
Is
You
there
didn't
only
know that?
3?
Oh yeah. One of them of them is in Disneyland in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's Disney World. Disneyland.
Disney
Whichever
World
one.
is in Florida.
Disney World. And it's in Disney Springs, which used to be downtown Disney.
Why is there a Wetzles pretzels in that mall?
I don't even know. Oh, the one at Sugarloaf Mills?
Yeah.
That one exists because the little couple that runs it they're franchise owners.
Yeah.
And the brand, like, shut it down, and they fought, like, tooth and nail to keep their specific one open.
What?
Because
I underappreciated that Wetzles pretzels.
Oh no, like, we went there.
I thought it was an indie brand.
No.
Honest to God.
That was a regular family trip. Like, every single week we would go to the mall on, like, Sunday.
Because I think that might be one of the few I've ever seen.
That was a regular trip for us, and my mom's favorite treat was Wetzles pretzels. She still loves it to this day. We always go there.
Wild.
Like, anytime we go to that mall, we are always at Wetzles pretzels.
I deeply have not appreciated Wetzles pretzels.
I just love how completely off topic we are.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Well, it got nostalgic.
Yes, yeah.
Because we started talking about childhood and beautiful things.
Yeah. Sometimes when my dad was done with work, he'd be like, "Hey guys, come lay down with me." And we'd lay on the floor, and we'd start drawing for, like, an entire story.
Oh my gosh,
book.
I love that.
And no, my dad was very invested.
I love that. My dad would read books out loud to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a
oh
family.
no, we would start drawing. He was like, "We should create an entire story," and we would just start going for it.
That's magical.
Nah, no.
I love that.
I love my parents and I love drawing with them. They were a lot.
Yeah.
When both of your parents
so
are
good.
artists, sometimes shading becomes very important when you're 3. And you're like, I don't know what that word means, my man.
I think that's why my dad and I bumped heads on math.
That's
because it comes so naturally to him. He just gets it.
No, I just remember laying down as a child coloring, and then my mom laid down, and she was like, "And this is how you shade." And she would take the thing out, the little crayon out of my fingers and illustrate for me. And I'd be like, "Thank you for showing me how to do shadows, Mom." And she'd get up and leave, and my dad would come lay down. And it's like, "And this is how you, like, have darker on the outside and lighter on the inside. And it gives it dimension." And they take the crayon out of my fingers. And I was like, "Okay."
See, something that my mom would do, and I loved this, because she's just always been gifted with, like, younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
She just is amazing that way.
My dad.
But, like, when there was something that she was really good at, and it's funny because I actually had this conversation with your mom because we were talking about that, and, like, she sewed for theater a lot. So, and sometimes it would overlap with our school schedules because she'd be on a timeline and she'd have to finish it. So we would just, like, sit in her lap while she was sewing, and she would put her foot on the pedal, and then, like, whatever she had her hands on, she would just put our hands, like, either under hers, and so that we could, like, feel what she was doing, or she'd put our hands on top of hers, like, depending on what the task was.
Oh.
Yeah, and, like, so she would, like, just as an example, hold the pen, she would literally do this, and, like, instead of taking the pen out of our hand and showing us, she would, like, the Helen Keller approach.
Yeah.
Like, stick your hand on it.
I was like, "Here." Just
Like, literally
just
feel
this
what
happen.
I'm doing. Like, Which was amazing for me because that would like solidify it in my brain. Because if I could know what the hand motions felt like, I would be able to more easily replicate it.
That makes a lot of sense.
To this day, when I'm really struggling with something in art, I'll trace it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Or I'll go over it and I'll trace shapes that I see in it so that I can find how to actually do it on my own.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because then once you're familiar with the motion, your brain remembers that. It's like cultivating a muscle memory.
That's fair. Usually when I have problems drawing something, I have to like recategorize it.
Right.
For like when you finally figure out how to draw the second eye.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I can stop doing the emo bangs.
Right. Right. Oh, if you're an artist, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Like I finally figured out how to draw the second eye at like a quarter head angle.
Quarter head angle is like the worst.
And I was like, it's what, like I was looking at something and I was like, what is different? What am I doing different? I was staring at something and I was looking at like a person into a quarter and I was like, what is different? And I was like, that eye looks taller than the other one. I drew them differently. Like generally when I have a breakthrough in one of those, it's like because I've recategorized how a thing works in my brain.
Right.
I figured how to draw hands because I was like, wait, that's how this is down here. And I was like, that's how that
This is so silly, but literally sometimes when I was stuck, like I still remember when this would happen. Like I would grab on my dad's arm just playing around like you do when you're a kid. And sometimes I would literally just grab and be like, wait, there's a muscle there. And then I would just be doing this. They'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, because it makes sense. Because drawing, and I can actually, there's a curve. And you go, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, literally one day I was like, it's down there. There's a hinge here. And that's how the thumb works.
I'm just like holding my dad's hand and I'm like doing this.
Yeah, it was like, wait.
The number of times I would make my brother pose for me. I'd be like, Tommy, put your hands on your hips. Just randomly out of nowhere. And he'd just be like, right now? Like, and I'd be like, please, just real quick. And he'd go, and then I'd just be like, thank you.
Like, yeah.
Anyway, we've gone completely off topic.
Oh God, what are we talking about?
Okay, so we were discussing like independent learning, which that is independent learning.
Is.
It is independent learning.
It does.
So
like
I keep saying that we're off topic, and yet somehow we've still managed to surprisingly stay on topic even with our tangents today. So
good for us.
Go us. High fives.
Woo.
We're doing great.
A few moments later.
There was one thing I wanted to circle back around.
Yes.
When it came to math, we were talking about timers.
Yes.
And racing the timer. So I forgot this existed until you mentioned something. But my mom used to sit down with us and just for fun, she would copy our same homework and we would do it at the same time.
Oh.
And it would be a race to see how fast we could get it
That's fair.
done.
I think Jackson and I might have done something
sit down,
like that.
and then at the end, she would compare her work with our work. And like,
That's
even though
cool.
the whole time, she usually knew exactly what she was doing, and sometimes she'd go slow on purpose. In the earlier math. Once we got to algebra, it was a struggle for both of us.
Yeah, no, you get to algebra and everyone's like,
Yeah, we struggled through algebra together with my mom. All 5 of us.
Like, I have to remember how to do something? Give me a second.
Yeah, and math was like...
I do that now when I'm tutoring. I'm like, give me a second to remember what this is.
Exactly. But yeah, that was a fun thing that I thought was really interesting.
My brother and I did that really early on.
That's fair.
Yeah, my mom was like, I'm so glad you understand what's happening.
Right?
I don't know what this is. I had a little bit of trouble with science. And just because it doesn't come naturally to me, I was always interested in it. It's just sort of like, this is a concept that if I miss any of it, I'm going to have a harder time by the end. So like, I just took my time with those.
Yeah.
And generally, if I had trouble with a thing, I was like, to the internet I go. Someone will explain this to me.
Gosh, we watched so many YouTube videos.
Man.
Like, so many YouTube videos.
Yeah. At some point, someone would explain it to me in a way that made sense.
I really loved when Khan Academy happened. Because when that happened, like, it was a game changer for us with math.
It was the Green Brothers for me. Crash Course.
No. Yes. Yeah. Crash Course, yes. Yes.
Even today, I randomly, Crash Course will just come into my life. Just Hank Green will appear and say something to me.
Right.
And I'm like, sir, first of all, every time you tell me about science, you make my life a little worse. Because I didn't need to know. I didn't need to know sharks are older than some of the rings on Saturn. That upsets me. I don't like that at all.
Okay, so my dad was obsessed with the educational side of YouTube.
Mhm.
Back in, like, when YouTube was thriving with educational videos.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And we would constantly watch, like, Vsauce and Smarter Every Day and the Green Brothers. And there were so many. But those were not even part of our school day. Those were what we would watch as a family to wind down in the evenings.
No, they were fun, though.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they literally weren't even part of our, like, daily learning.
Yeah, but also edutainment
we were
is
always
so
watching
built
them.
into our lives.
It is. It really
I
is.
was like, I like learning, so here we are anyway.
I love edutainment. It's fantastic.
Man, the things I did not need to know about gravity and time being correlated. I was like, I don't need to know that those affect each other. Time should not be affected by anything.
Like, the cosmic videos sometimes would get to me. Like, if you ever watched Vsauce, some of those, like, when he starts getting really cosmic and talking about, like, the way people perceive colors.
Yeah.
Or, like, if you're a cannibal, if you've ever swallowed any piece of anything that, like, if you bit your lip. And I'm like, can we not have this conversation?
Right. I think recently someone was like, you've never touched anything. And I was like, why would you say that to me? I understand what you mean, and I hate it.
It's like, they just want to make you uncomfortable.
I was like, technically, I've never touched anything in my life, and I don't like anything about this. Thanks. Thank you so much.
I was about to be like, well, that's all we have time for today, but I feel like that's a horrible place to end.
Yeah, no, that's deeply existential, and I'm so sorry. Well, thank you for following us through this journey today. If you have any questions you would like us to expound upon, please put it in the comments. We'd be happy to go back and talk about it again.
We absolutely love hearing your thoughts. And if you really enjoyed this content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, because every little bit helps to get our channel along the way. We are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, and when we do,
we'll do a live stream
with all 4 of us.